What's up, everybody? Lucifer Constantine with you. Welcome to another episode. Today we are interviewing my friend Andy Whittle. Andy is from Europe, and we're gonna have a couple conversations here today, including a conversation about the Batman movie, as we're both Batman fans. So stay tuned for that. Well, Andy, introduce yourself a little bit. Like I said, I already said everybody, you know, what's your name and stuff. Maybe say how old you are or where exactly you're from.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Andy. I'm 37 years old. I've known Lucifer a couple of years now. I'm from a small town just west of London called Slough in the UK, and I've lived here all my life. And I'm currently a baggage handler at Heathrow Airport for British Airways, which is always a fun job.
What the fuck, princess? Yo, go lay down. Unbelievable. What were you saying, Andy? Every time, man. I already told my sister that she needs to pick up this dog because this is like, I don't know how many times like she's freaking interrupted my show. But yeah, that's all part of it. What were you saying? You were saying that
you love it really. You love it really, don't you?
Yeah, kind of. I really do. You know, it makes the show more interesting, I guess. You know, it's of the walls of everything. Like right now, I can hear people talking as you're talking, like in the hallway. That's why she's barking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just hoping that the Zoom call doesn't pick up the microphone, because like, you know, every time the Zoom hears a sound from one of us, it'll switch the camera, you know, while the other person is still talking. So I don't want that to happen.
That's fun.
All right, so you're from what part? You said what part of Europe?
The UK.
United Kingdom, England.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Yeah.
And what's the name of your town?
It's called Slough. It's just slightly west of London, so it's not far from London. You could call it a suburb.
Oh, really?
London.
How? What's the drive like? Like how far?
It's not far. It's about takes about 20-25 minutes. To get to
so
London.
that's about like from here to New York.
Yeah.
Yes.
So literally, I live right by one of the most popular highways, as you call them over there, motorways, which takes you directly into London. So it's quite convenient, actually.
Nice. And you've lived there all your life, right?
Yeah.
Born there too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now, Andy, what I'm going to ask you next is, you know that my show is all about marijuana, and I smoke on my show.
Yeah.
So, question number 1, do you smoke? Have you ever smoked is question number 2. And question number 3, why do you or don't you smoke?
Okay, so I've never smoked it, but I've never had a problem with it. I've known a lot of people around me that have smoked it, and I've never had a problem with it, to be fair. Of course, you know, there's been all this furore about it throughout the world, you know, it being banned, etc., etc. But I've never had a problem. And the town where I live, there is quite a high use of it. So you do in certain areas of the town that you venture to, you do smell it, and obviously the smell is quite distinct. It's more distinct than tobacco. So you know when someone's using it. But as I say, I've known people that have used it. Never had a problem with it. And the more and more that people are allowed to use it, the better, in my view. I think that they need to obviously take away these banning laws that they've got all over the globe. And I think that, you know, the quicker the better.
Right. I agree too. I agree. So you've never smoked it, and you say your town smells like it.
You know, certain, you know what it's like. You know,
Yeah.
there's certain areas.
I don't know what it's like anymore, because I feel like I've gotten so used to that I only can smell marijuana when like it's very pungent, like very strong, like a different strain. So maybe if I go up to you, I'll probably smell it like, oh, you weren't joking. But maybe I might not smell it because I'm so used to smelling like weed. Like sometimes I go into stores because I'll be smoking almost all day when my son is not here. So I wouldn't care about wearing cologne, and I forget that I just finished smoking. So it's like I'm walking to all these stores and I forget, like, I wonder if people, as soon as I walk in, it's like an aura of like marijuana around me, like as I'm walking, because I don't notice it anymore because I'm like always used to the smell.
You see, sat here, I can't see you glowing green around the outside of you like an aura.
So why have you never tried it? Is it for personal reasons or other reasons?
I've never smoked, not even tobacco. It's just been a choice. But obviously, when I've been around people, and obviously in the town, I do smell it, and it's a distinct smell, and I don't actually have a problem with it. Sometimes it is actually good to smell it, because in some of these places where it's actually smoked, there are bad smells, and actually to smell the marijuana, it's actually, oh, well, at least there's a nice smell here, as opposed to the...
yeah, I guess so. So, do you you just never been a smoker, basically?
No.
Would you ever try it?
I might do. I might do for obviously historical purposes and things like that, just to say that yes, he's tried it.
You know, maybe when I finally go to the UK, instead of smoking, we'll do some edibles together, and then go from there.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah. Because I know some people still find the action of smoking like very disgusting or very, you know, not a good habit. So there's people who will rather get high off of edibles than smoke. Like I know plenty of people who just take edibles. They don't even smoke.
Right. I read an interesting article once about smoking in general, and it's actually been backed up by people that I know, that when they actually quit smoking, so some of them actually just quit. They just stopped. They didn't take any of the nicotine patches that you can buy to put on your arm. Mm-hmm. Some of them actually went through the program with the nicotine patches to get over it. And none of them were actually made a testament that they could actually smell themselves in terms of how clothes are, how the rooms are, etc., etc. They reckon that because they're so used to it, as you say, you don't really smell it. Yeah. Well, what was interesting was when they actually quit smoking, but then they went back to it. So they thought, oh, I'll have a cheeky fag. They've gone to have one, and then they've smelt themselves up, and they were absolutely disgusted with themselves because of the smell. Because obviously they've gotten over the habit to a degree.
Right.
Okay. It started to clear out the system, and they're not in that habit of doing it. And of course the normal smells have returned. So their homes have started to smell better. Their clothes are a bit different. And of course when they go to smoke the cigarette for that first time after that period of time where they haven't had one, they can actually smell the actual tobacco, and they're like, they couldn't believe the difference of
I agree
how it felt afterwards.
I agree. When I quit smoking cigarettes, I immediately felt a difference, not only in the smell of cigarettes, that I can now I can smell them a lot easier, especially when other people are smoking them, but also I can I actually tried a cigarette after like a month of not smoking, and it was a horrible flavor. It was a horrible flavor. Like it like surprised me in a second, because it's like, wow, I really was smoking this for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know? And then like with marijuana, I guess it's the same thing, because you know, I spent all of my life like not really, like not smoking or drinking. I started drinking when I was 20 for the first time.
Yes.
And then I started smoking marijuana only 6 years ago.
Okay.
Never touched it in my life. And now it's weird, because I can't really imagine myself not smoking marijuana, because it's helped me so much with all the things that I've dealt with over the years, just sober.
Yeah.
You know, completely sober.
Yeah.
You know, it's like things are a lot more peaceful that I smoke weed, versus when I was sober, I was very restless, like for years, restless. It made me very, very, very impulsive.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
weird.
think I think obviously in time things will change, and you'll see a lot freer world in terms of marijuana use. And there was a question I wanted to ask you. I think we touched on it before. Was obviously about the use in the States. Obviously, different states have different laws now. And I find it interesting that some states are still standing by their laws, where they won't allow the use or the actual purchase of it, whereas other states just like, yeah, do what you want.
Yeah. As far as I know, the majority of the United States has legalized marijuana. In fact, if I was to search it up right now, which I will, because that's a good question.
Yeah.
I haven't checked it in a long time. How many states have legalized weed? 18 states. Oh, so not the majority.
Wow.
Over the age of 21, and 38 states in DC have legalized medical marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, the majority. Turns out, like, let me see. According to this map, and maybe I'll pull it up. Map. Yeah, only states that haven't is Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, Kansas, Illinois, Wisconsin, North and South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. It looks like Texas is still legal. You know?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. I'm pretty sure in the next, I would say, what, 5 to 10 years, all states will be legal.
Yeah.
You know? It's interesting too, because when I went to California, where it's completely legal, right? Over there, you see people, not only do you see dispensaries at every corner, like grocery stores, right? But they're all like so different. Like every dispensary is literally like a bodega, like a grocery store. It's like every single one has its own theme, right? And they all got a variety of prices. Most prices pretty similar. So it's like you're really going to different places based off the strains that they have available, not really the pricing, right? Or the edibles that they have available. And then you see people smoking on the street like it's no problem, right? Yeah. Here, you still see people smoking on the streets, right? But the difference is that I kind of have gotten used to seeing in the ghetto, even when things were illegal, of people smoking weed on the street. So it's like, it's not really all that much of a difference, in my opinion, you know, because people were doing it when it was illegal. And, you know, the only place you don't really see it happening is in the suburbs, right? But when you go to California, you see it everywhere. That's the only difference, right? You see it everywhere in Cali, but in Jersey or New York, you only see it in like the ghetto. Right.
Well, it's like over here in Europe. It's quite strange because here you've still got some laws where you're not allowed to grow it. So you still have, there's still like drug busts where the police turn up at this house that you thought was really, really, really quiet and that. Yeah. And they go in there, police, they break the door down, they go in there. And it turns out that there's either a loft conversion in the loft of the house, and they've got some marijuana up there with all the lamps on them and stuff like that.
I believe it.
And also, believe it. Yeah. And of course, when some people get caught by the police and they can smell it on them, and they caution them, stuff like that. Wow. But also, you go to Europe, Amsterdam, Holland, completely legal there. They have all the cafes where you can walk in there. Completely different. Over here, we obviously have cafes. You've got cafes in the US. Go there, you buy a coffee, you buy something else, buy some food. Well, these cafes, you can walk in there and buy marijuana. And everyone's sat there in the window outside. It's completely free. It's a completely different world to other places in mainland Europe. But there's one particular interesting story. I think I told you this once already. So someone I know went to Amsterdam. I think he took his girlfriend or something. And they walked into this cafe, and there was nothing there. There was no signage, nothing for cannabis or anything like that. And they bought a coffee, they bought some food, and they turned around and said, "Oh, you see that cake there that you got in the cabinet? Can we have a couple of slices of it?" Now, of course, this holiday was a weekend, so they'd gone on the Friday. They're coming back up on the Monday. This was the Saturday morning. So they've gone out for the first time after all the travelling on the Friday. They've had a coffee, they've had some food, and then they've had some dessert. Right. Well, there they were on Monday morning, trying to remember what actually happened Saturday and Sunday. Oh. because it turned out that the cake actually had marijuana in it.
Oh my God!
What had happened was all the signage that was usually up had been taken down because they were having this new launch or something. Oh, so they just thought it was a regular cake, and it wasn't. They had a huge slice of it.
Oh my God! So the restaurant probably assumed that whoever was there already knew. And these people are there, not completely unaware that they're in a marijuana cafe.
So basically, they cannot remember what happened on the Saturday and Sunday. They can only remember waking up the Monday morning and thinking, "Shit, it's the Monday. We're going home today."
That reminds me of the movie The Hangover. You ever seen The Hangover?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to watch them. There's 3 of them, 3 movies, and each one is always a weekend where they start on Friday, they do something, and they black out Saturday and Sunday. And then each movie is about how the friends they wake up Monday and half their friends are missing, and they got to retrace the steps to find everyone and figure out what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
well, that's a bit like The Hangover, the film.
That's what I'm saying. The Hangover.
Oh, The Hangover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one though. I've only seen the first one. I haven't seen. Ones. Right, and are they similar?
Yeah, but I think they're still pretty funny, because the first one was the bachelor party, right?
Yeah.
So the second and the third one are for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't they doesn't one of the friends get lost in LA? Sorry, Las Vegas.
Yeah. And then I think the other one gets a tattoo. He wakes up with a tattoo. Yeah,
another one's married.
Every time I hear stories like that, I'm reminded of why I'm afraid of ever blacking out. I've gotten drunk and I've gotten high, but I've never allowed myself to be so high or so drunk that I don't remember anything. That is one of my worst fears.
Well, that happened to me last weekend.
No.
Yeah. So I went to I went to a rave, and so it's a hardcore music over here. It's pretty popular.
Wait. You went to a rave?
Yeah.
Aren't you 37 with kids?
Yeah.
And you still go to a rave?
I went to a rave, yeah.
That's so awesome. I've never heard of someone your age, like with kids, going to a rave.
Oh, you think that's bad? You want to see some of the people that turn up? They're in their 40s. They're in their 50s.
Oh my God.
This isn't a 2-hour thing. We're talking like 9 in the evening till 6 in the morning.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened.
Put it this way: there's some serious stuff going on.
Oh my God.
Well, put it this way: I got there 2 hours in. I can remember up to the second hour, and then there I was with half an hour left to go. So we're talking 5:30, nearly 6 o'clock, and I went, what the hell has just happened? So literally, I've had to watch videos, the ones that are available, of actually what happened. And there's all these people telling me, "Oh, Andy, you were doing this, you were doing that, you were sat down, but apparently I nearly passed out."
Oh my God. Oh,
and I don't know why. I don't know why, but so. But yeah, I went to a rave.
What did you take? Were you drunk or like did you? That's crazy.
You see, that sort of thing worries me because I mean, if you're in the wrong situation, you could lose your wallet. Yeah, you could lose your host. You could use your wallet. With the hotels over here, you have a card, which obviously you put into the lock. Or you scan it. It's not a key anymore. You lose that, you can't get in your room.
Oh wow!
And it's so it's things like that you worry about when you go out. But yeah, here I am. I survived.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So, let's start talking about the Batman. I know we're both anxious to like touch on that topic. You saw it on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And I saw it Thursday opening night, and I saw it again last night.
Okay.
You see my videos on how I feel, my initial reaction.
Yeah.
I gotta say that after watching it for a second time, there are some things that I have changed my mind on.
Okay.
But there are some things that I haven't changed my mind on. Right?
Okay.
So, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was really good. Okay, so I've been anticipating this. This project as such has been going on for so many years. You know, we've had the project where obviously Affleck was going to direct and star in it, and then he pulled out of it, and obviously Matt Reeves took over. They then started filming it in 2019. Obviously, we then got hit by the pandemic, which then meant that obviously over here in the UK, where they filmed a lot of it, they had to stop filming in the studios. And so I think there was like a gap of like 6 months from the initial shots. So through January and February of 2020, they obviously were filming. Then they had to stop. They got to, I think it was September or October 2020, and they started filming again. And then in between that, to stop and start all the way through. So that's one of the reasons why it's taken so long. And so obviously as a Batman fan, you're eagerly anticipating seeing this new film. There's been no standalone Batman film in the last 10 years, obviously other than Affleck in Justice League and Batman versus Superman. So of course I was really, really anticipating, and went in there. When I heard that it was 3 hours long, I was really, really interested because I was expecting there to be, a lot of beating up, a lot of arses being busted. And I also heard that there was an hour of footage that they had to cut out of it because it was made 4 hours long, which I found interesting. So obviously they've had to edit it down to what they thought was the complete package. And I've gone in there, and I thought they did a really, really good job in terms of the Gotham that it was set in. Basically, from when, obviously it's year 2, he's still in his infancy in terms of his career as the Batman. He's still learning his detective skills. Now don't get me wrong, I thought it was a really good film, but I did have some issues with it.
Okay.
But then again, I've had issues with every Bat film that I've seen.
Right.
I had some issues with The Dark Knight and Nolan's films.
Right.
Even though I think that all 3 of them are great in their entirety. So of course you want to see a different take on the Batman. We're used to seeing the Batman so many years into his career. Obviously with the Burton ones, you start off with Keaton. He's just started. We then see obviously Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And then obviously Nolan's new take, where you see him in the beginning, training up to be this superhero. But overall, I was happy, but there were some issues. I'm not going to lie. And I left the cinema a bit deflated.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly how I felt. Mixed feelings, and I've mentioned in my initial reaction, and I'm going to mention again. When I think of the movie, by itself as a movie, as a film, it's a beautiful film. It's beautifully. It has great scenes, great close-ups, great edits. The graphics are amazing. The acting on everyone's part was amazing for what the material was. For what the material and the story was, it basically was close to perfect for what Matt Reeves was trying to do, right? Because he was trying to deliver on a psychological detective noir, right?
Yeah.
However, one point that you made that is very valid, that goes with the reasoning why I have certain issues with the movie, is the anticipation, right? Because in the comics, obviously we've seen different versions of Batman, right? Yeah. But the things that have always remained consistent with Batman is that Batman is intelligent as the portrayal of Sherlock Holmes in the Robert Downey Jr. movies, right?
Yeah.
Batman is an expert martial artist, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways, he is kind of a sociopath, right? But he keeps himself. His whole story is him dealing with his trauma and him dealing with not crossing the line and becoming his enemy, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is like every director that has taken the Batman franchise has had this habit of giving us their version of Batman, just
not
like
the version. Yeah.
Just like we've done with the artists in the DC comics, right? DC has always had the same habit. They give every artist creative freedom with the character, right? But artists understand that when it comes to the fans, there are certain things that you cannot do. And that is take away certain characteristics about the character that take away from the story, right? And in the movies, it's different. All these directors have a habit of taking away things from the character, where we always feel this dissatisfaction with all these movies, because even though they're great, we have no choice but to be kind of optimistic and positive about their take on it. But the truth is that they have yet to give us the Batman from the comics, right? And in my opinion, Zack Snyder was the closest one to it.
I agree with you.
Right? And, I agree with you. And that's what I was expecting Matt Reeves to do. I was expecting Matt Reeves to give us a Batman that was even closer than Zack Snyder's Batman. And I feel like the Batman that I saw was nowhere near the Batman that I was expecting.
Yeah.
You know? What was one of your issues with the film?
Well, I had an issue with the ending.
Why?
And I'll be honest with you. I had an issue with the ending of The Dark Knight.
Okay.
I thought The Dark Knight was an absolutely fantastic film, untouchable, right?
Right.
But when I saw that ending at the end of The Dark Knight, where you got the guy that they both got the switches, and they have to, you know, they're looking at one another about who's going to press the button. And you got the Joker, and he sat there, and he's like, oh, press the button. You know, he's expecting one of them to blow the hell out the boat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just felt deflated with that. I was expecting something with more stature, something with more Joker-esque, you know, scaring the public. Okay, fair enough. Say a boat full of citizens and a boat full of prisoners. Yeah. Obviously, you would expect the citizens to push the button because you've got a boat full of prisoners. Yeah. Right. I was just left a little bit deflated.
I agree with you with The Dark Knight. When that movie first came out, I had a problem with that ending as well, because I didn't expect them to give us such a methodical Joker. You know, the Joker is a very chaotic character, so much so that his plan never works, because he's so deranged and delusional about what he can accomplish. But Christopher Nolan decided to give us a more realistic Joker that was actually an evil genius, right? Yeah. Methodical. Everything was thought out, planned. You know, he was insane, but he was, you know, he was like a serial killer, like not a sociopath, but a psychopath.
A psychopath.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was interesting him choosing, you know, for that to be the Joker's, you know, plan, right? To play on the chaos of and morality of the people of Gotham, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, Batman having to choose to take on the blame for Harvey Dent, you know, killing people, right? So it was, and that's the thing too, because it's like, that was a very psychological ending. Like that, The Dark Knight, in my opinion, was one of the most psychological movie thrillers of Batman, you know? And now that's why I kind of said in my video that this movie felt like it was competing with that movie, because the ending in the Batman is kind of the same. It's the Riddler
sort of,
outwitting Batman and flooding Gotham.
Yeah.
Right? But you know, that ending of flooding Gotham, doesn't it remind you also of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises, when Bane blew up the stadium and was trying to, you know, enclose Gotham to raise crime? You know, I felt like that's a source material that's too early to bring on to an infant Batman What do you think?
Yeah.
Right?
I think, no, you're right. You're right. And I mean, you look at all three movies, all three of them have this ending, don't they? You know, you look at Batman Begins and you've got the League of Shadows attacking
Right. Every
Gotham.
ending, every plot is the same almost.
Yeah. And it's like all they've used a set plot line with the film. So it starts off a certain way, there's a middle, then the ending has to end off this way, and they've developed it. What they've done is they've stripped the skeleton out of Batman Begins and put it in The Dark Knight. Yeah? They've ended Batman Begins with the card, the calling card.
Right.
Oh, the Joker's coming next.
Right.
Yeah? And they've left that cliffhanger. Well, look at the cliffhanger in this film. You've got the Riddler banged up in Arkham Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And he's coming to terms with the fact that he's now not the celebrity.
Right.
His master plan has failed. He's now just this criminal sat in this cell, and he's looking for either side. How long he's going to be in there, he doesn't know. Yeah?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you hear this laughing next door. Is it the Joker? I don't know. It's someone laughing.
It is the Joker.
But then
Matt Reeves confirmed
it
is the Joker.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously any subsequent film that comes along,
Yeah.
the second film is going to have the Joker in it.
Right. See,
And don't you find that?
What were we gonna ask?
Don't you find that a comparison with The Dark Knight?
Yeah, that's completely a comparison, because every aspect of the Batman is too similar to the Dark Knight, right? Because, all right, let's take away the obvious. Obviously, Batman movies have to be dark, gritty, right? That's who Batman is, right? Psychological even, right? However, they're sticking to too much realism, right?
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that, because Batman, even though he is human in the comics, he is the peak of humanity, right? He's the human being who is a ninja, a master ninja. He's the human being who's a master genius detective, right? He can bench press 1,000 pounds. He can beat up mutated monsters, right? And in this movie, all you see throughout the whole thing is Batman being vulnerable. And even though I understand he's 2 years in as Batman, this Batman did not feel like a Batman who had 10 years of training. Right?
No.
Because if you look at Batman Begins, right? Christian Bale not only goes through his own training, being a criminal, but he goes through a couple years of training with Ra's al Ghul, right? And when he started off as Batman, he makes mistakes, right? But his martial arts isn't hindered, right? He basically takes on the whole thing on his own. But in this movie, Batman needs help. He needs constant help from Alfred or Selina or even James Gordon, right? So it's like you're not really showing Batman's strengths. Instead, you're showing nothing but his weaknesses throughout the whole movie.
Do you think, though, that this could have been done deliberately? In terms of the setup for the next film. So in the next film, I know this is in its infancy, because the first film's just come out. Yeah, we're 2 days in, 3 days into this film coming out. But thinking ahead, do you think that with this being Matt Reeves' depiction of the Batman,
it's
and obviously
it's possible.
He's used obviously aspects of the comic book, yeah. There's obviously aspects of the other films in there.
Right.
But do you think this? Do you think that this is his depiction of Batman making mistakes, and him using the people around him to make him who he is. But then in the next film with the Joker, right? There's an even bigger plot. There's an even bigger story. There's an even bigger supervillain. Okay, quick thinking with all the different things that he does to the population of Gotham.
That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of them taking the same approach that Christopher Nolan took, where every movie is a psychological plot.
Right.
You know? Because even though Batman is a psychological character, the majority of times he's a action hero, right? Like Superman, right? A lot of the times the villains he fights is all about brawn, not about brain, right? Christopher Nolan decided that every plot in his movie was going to be a psychological battle, right?
Yeah.
Because those movies portray what it's like for Batman to face his mantle, his mask, right? Yeah. We don't need to see that again. What we need to see is a Batman who's heroic, not only intelligent, but heroic, and can take on big bad monsters.
Yeah.
Right? And I have no problem with Matt Reeves making a movie where Batman battles someone who's trying to outwit him, right? But what did they do? In the end of this movie, I didn't feel like Batman won. Right? In fact, I felt like he lost more than he won in this movie. Because he was outwitted by the Riddler. At the end of the day, you were outwitted because the Riddler still flooded the whole city. Right? Alfred almost died.
Yeah.
Right? You needed to be saved by Selina Kyle and needed to use Venom to lash out on the guy on the henchman that almost killed her.
Yeah.
Right? And then his approach to every situation in the movie is not even smart. It's not even smart because he's getting shot at constantly in the movie, right? He's using basic martial art moves like judo and boxing, right? He doesn't approach any situation with stealth or tact or, strategy, right? So it's like if you're trying to form him through the people around him, and then in the second movie you're gonna create a plot where you strip these people away from him, that's another psychological plot. That's not a mythic Batman that can face Superman, right?
Yeah.
Because one thing that Zack Snyder did really good with Batman versus Superman is that he gave Batman enough scenes for you to see the years in Bruce Wayne's composure and behavior of him being Batman, right? You see the cruelty in how he handles the criminals, and you even see the mythic, side of him where he's the Batman. Like he looks like a creature, like climbing things, He approaches when he goes to go save Superman's mom, right? You see there his prowess in his combat skills and gadget use, right? He approached the room like a ninja.
Yeah.
Right? That's Batman. Right? That's why he was able to almost kill Superman. Right?
Yeah.
But this version of Batman is too human. Too human, in my opinion. Way too human. Too close to Christopher Nolan's portrayal of Batman.
Maybe that is because they've tried to make him too realistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think about all the other films that we've seen, yeah? I mean, one of the other points that I wanted to make to you was, I was rather disappointed about the fight scenes.
Me too.
And what I was disappointed about the fight scenes, so at the start we see him, and you see him literally rising up off the floor after kicking the absolute crap out of that guy. And and they ask him, "Who are you?" "I'm Vengeance." And then the camera shot from behind, you see all these guys just stood there staring at him, and he rises up. Yeah. And to me, that was you saw the attack prowess. You see that he wasn't scared of all them guys stood in front of him. You could see in his mind what he was going to do to all of them. They're all staring at him, wanting to, throw punches and kicks at him and go after him because they just witnessed their mate get beaten up by him.
Right.
They're thinking, well, look, there's 9-10 of us. There's one of him. Right. Yeah, we're going to get him. But you know what's going to happen. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And it happened. But literally, before I went and saw that film, and I actually watched it again today, if you go on YouTube and you type in Ben Affleck Batman, right, there's a video on there, the warehouse scene at the end when he saves Superman's
that's the one I was
mum,
talking about.
Right?
Yeah.
And he absolutely, you can see the fear. You can see, he's in that room and they've got all their weapons, and the way he moves, ninja, yeah? Yeah. He just moves around the room, knocking 7 light, and he's already thinking of the next move because then he does it. Yeah? And the bulkiness of his body is similar to obviously what we've seen in the comics.
Yeah.
You see him, he's worked out. You actually see him working out in the film, yeah? Bulking up before he fights Superman. And the way he moves as well, you look at the body and you think, wow, literally, to each guy, he's putting a combo, like in Batman Arkham Knight, he's putting a combo together, yeah? Right. Literally kicking the absolute crap out of them. Right. And then he moves from that bit, and even though he gets stabbed in the arm, he's still kicking crap out of them, and he pulls the knife out, sticks it into the guy up against the wall. Yeah. And you can see the fear in his face. He's looking at him. He wants to annihilate them. Yeah. And I didn't see that.
No.
When I saw that fight scene at the beginning, I thought, right, when's the next one coming? When's the next one coming? Who's he kicking the crap out of next? And we didn't really see it, did we? We saw it at the end, to a degree. We saw it in the middle a little bit, here and there, but...
Right. Not really enough action, and those action scenes were very flawed because you see Batman getting his ass whooped a lot. Because in that first scene where he's facing the Joker thugs, right? He beats the crap out of the first one, but as soon as he immediately starts fighting the group, they get a couple clean hits on him very easily.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, this feels weird. Like, this feels like, you know the Arkham games, the Batman Arkham games, right?
Yeah.
I literally was thinking, like, this is someone playing the Arkham games and completely being an amateur at them. And not knowing when to press the Y button or the triangle button to counter. Completely not knowing that you need a counter, like all these moves,
Yeah.
And then it kind of takes away from the whole plot because you find out at the end of the movie that Riddler's whole methodical plan was that he felt like he was a vigilante like Batman, right?
Yeah.
Right? He felt a kinship towards him, and he felt like, the whole thing was about how Batman has misused the concept of vengeance, right? But when you really think about it, vengeance is, as in a lot of times, brutal. Like, vengeance is brutal. It's not given a care about how the other person is gonna end up. And you didn't see that in this movie. You did not see him be vengeance. I was expecting him to be brutal, cruel, really showing that not only is he the press, but he's taking it out on these criminals. But I didn't see that. I didn't see a vengeance for Batman.
But the other thing we saw in Batman versus Superman a lot with Affleck's Batman is the fear. You can see that he's a seriously disturbed man, even though he's a businessman. He's world renowned. Yeah, He goes to that party and Clark Kent's there and everyone's looking at him because he's Bruce Wayne. Look at him. Look at him in that suit. Look at the car he's turning up in. Yeah?
Yeah.
He's got that aura about him as the billionaire, right? He's got the brains about him because he runs this company. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But underneath all that is this fear. And that drives the suit that he puts on and the image of Batman, the fear, because he's taken out the fear of losing his parents and his childhood on the criminal underworld. Yeah. And you can see every time, literally, in that fight scene in the warehouse, when he's absolutely battering the crap out of them. You've seen it in the comic books throughout the years with fight scenes where you can see the anguish and the pain that he's feeling inside because of the loss of his parents. But then when he dons that suit and he goes out there, yeah, he's literally turning that fear on the streets. They're fearing the bat and he's using it against that criminal underworld.
Yeah.
And the depiction through Affleck, you can see the difference between Patterson and that. I mean, there were a lot of scenes, I thought, where he was imposing as the Batman. So, for instance, when he walked into the room where the mayor was murdered in his house,
right,
and you see him walking over when Gordon's got the card with to the Batman on it,
right.
And there's always them shots where he's looking and he just walks gingerly over. I found that quite intimidating, to be fair.
Right, like those were really great scenes that show that's what I'm saying. Like, this movie is kind of a bit of a contradiction because you have these very intimidating scenes, like his walk, the emphasis on his walk, the sound of his steps, right? The way that the cops act around him, right?
Yeah.
He has this intimidating look, but you don't see it enough in the way he approaches criminals.
No.
Right? You don't see the anger. You don't see the fear that he's trying to instill in them.
No.
You know? And what's interesting is, I think a better plot for this movie would have been if Matt Reeves would have had a Batman who's near to, right? Who's, you know, still angry. You see him taking on criminals in a brutal and, you know, crazy way, you know, hanging them off the buildings, you know, coming in through the windows, like the stealth in the darkness, you know, and then like having Riddler be the first criminal he faces who now uses his mind, right? And now uses Batman's anger and vengeance against him, right? And Matt Reeves, I felt like that's what Matt Reeves was trying to do, like have Riddler use Batman's vengeance against him, but it wasn't portrayed really well in this movie.
No, I mean, you've seen that once already, obviously in The Dark Knight, when he's interrogating the Joker. And obviously he's getting pissed off with the fact that the Joker's playing with him. And that's when he starts beating the shit out of him.
Right.
But then of course he carries on and he winds him up even more. And then all of a sudden he comes out with the plot. And he's like, what? And then he beats him up a bit more. And then he says, look, you've got nothing to get me with. And then tells them exactly where they are, but switches them because he's playing with them. Yeah? Because he knows that he knows who he's going to go after. He's going to go after Rachel and not Harvey. And I found that quite similar with the interrogation scene in The Batman. Because he's ripped the riddles of lead all the way to Arkham. Because he knew he was going to get caught. The Riddler wanted to get caught. Right. He wanted to be seen this, as you say, this vigilante,
right?
And he's been caught by the police. Eventually, he gets banged up because of his crimes, but he's now he's like all serial killers. They want to get caught at some point,
right?
All of them.
Right.
There's this thing with serial killers where they have to get caught so that they're in the public image. Look at me. Look at what I've done. Yeah, it's
Right.
like a kick to them. The Riddler wanted to get caught. That's why he was in that coffee shop, just minding his own business, because he knew the police would find him there. But what he didn't anticipate was obviously the plan, flooding Gotham. Whether Batman or not could actually stop that, okay? But just before that, obviously with the interrogation scene, he comes out with the master plan, and the Batman gets rather angry, doesn't he? What have you done? What have you done? And he starts hitting the glass, and he can't get in the room. Bit like, obviously, Bale's Batman beating the shit out the Joker, yeah? Right. There's nothing he can do. At that point in time, he's got him. He's winding him up even more. He's getting angrier and angrier, but he can't do anything. And I just found that quite similar, to be fair. I don't know what you thought. But...
Yeah, I felt it similar, but I also felt it pointless because I felt it was childish because you didn't show this side of Batman throughout the whole movie, and then now all of a sudden you show him getting riled up, and it's kind of unfair because Batman was there afraid and intimidated in the shadows, thinking that Riddler had figured out that he was Bruce Wayne, right? Yeah. And I feel like that showed, okay, this Batman is really weak because how are you not smart enough to know that this guy doesn't know anything?
Yeah.
You know, because throughout the whole movie, he's been outwitting you. So are you really that intelligent of a Batman? Right? And then I felt like Riddler getting caught, wanting to get caught, was pointless as well. Because Riddler has always been a character that got off on getting away with it, right? And being a mystery and no one knowing who he is, right? Like, he's not one of those villains that likes the attention, because that's the point of his riddles, is to remain a mystery and be elusive.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't really like that he got caught the way he did, and that his plot was to because if he was like that, oh, you know, Batman, you helped me, and it's like, it didn't really feel like that was your MO. Like was it really that you were back? Because he only helped you one time, if you can consider that helping you. What about the other times? Like, it wasn't as psychological as I thought it was going to be. Like, it wasn't really all that smart of a plot.
No.
You know, there's too many loopholes. There's too many plot holes in it. Like, there's too many things that don't make sense, right? Like, it's like, it almost makes the whole movie not make sense, because it's like, Riddler's MO was that he was killing people that were lying and corrupt and part of Gotham's government. But why would he flood all of the city and kill innocent people if he's this orphan who grew up hating only the corrupt, right? That kind of contradicts his MO as a serial killer.
But the thing with serial killers is they just want to kill.
Well, serial killers become serial killers because they have a specific trigger.
Yeah.
Right? And that specific trigger is the only thing that makes them want to kill.
Well, the trigger in this is obviously exposing the elite of Gotham, right, for what they really are.
Right. But killing innocent people by flooding all the city of Gotham and purposely creating more crime is not part of that MO, right? Because in the video games and the comics, Riddler has always captured. There's some parts where he captures corrupt cops, right? But that's always the MO, is him trying. He's like Jigsaw, right? He's basically just like Jigsaw. he captures corrupt people, he puts them in traps, and he gives Batman a choice of saving them or not saving them by outwitting him, right? And he's always he uses that as a way of him remaining anonymous and staying away from the spotlight, right? But he's never been a diabolical villain of like, oh, let's destroy the whole city. His obsession has always been either Bruce Wayne or Batman, always trying to outwit him and be better than him. Joker, or you can say Joker or Bane even, have been more of those villains who are more of, let's destroy the city.
Well, agents of chaos, aren't they?
Right.
They're all about chaos.
Where do you go from here? You already created a plot where Gotham gets flooded, right? So that's a really big diabolical plot. Like, are you going to try to do the same thing that Christopher Nolan did? Where it's a different thing every movie. It's a bomb in one movie. It's a chemical reaction in another. Like, come on, that's not no longer original. And that's what frustrates me, because Matt Reeves says we were going to see a Batman movie that we haven't seen before. And I don't feel like this is a Batman movie we haven't seen. There are too many elements in this movie that remind me of the Nolan films.
I think you're right. I mean, one of the interesting things that I found about the film was obviously with the Riddler, he's hell-bent on finding out who Batman is. Now, there is another character in the Batman world who is hell-bent on finding out who the Batman is, and that's obviously Dr. Hugo Strange.
Right.
What I found amazing with all three Nolan films, there's always someone in them films that knows who Batman is.
Yeah.
So obviously in Batman Begins, he tells Rachel Dawes who he is. Yeah. And straight away, she knows who he is. It changes her perspective on Bruce, that he's now this caped vigilante. We then move to obviously The Dark Knight, and you've got Coleman Reese, who works out that Wayne Enterprises is giving all this stuff to the Batman.
Right.
And he works out. I think obviously Coleman Reese is a depiction of the Riddler,
right? And
it's another one of these characters for the future that's embedded in the film. And obviously he's worked out who Bruce Wayne is. Mm-hmm. And he wants to obviously blackmail him. And Lucius Fox cancels it. But then as the film develops, obviously the Joker goes after Coleman Reese, doesn't he? Because he goes public about the Batman, because Lucius Fox wouldn't listen to him. So he thinks by going bigger and going to a network and saying, well, I know who the Batman is, he thinks he's going to get his prize, but of course it opens up a can of worms.
Right, and then
the Joker uses it to his advantage to wheel the Batman in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But then Bruce Wayne saves his life, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And there's that little nod when he sees him, as if to say, "Thank you."
Right.
Yeah. So obviously he knows, but then we move on to The Dark Knight Rises, and John Blake knows who the Batman is anyway, because he's followed him from when he was a kid.
Right.
When he was in the orphanage, looking at his body language, looking at his facial, I knew who you were from the minute I saw you.
Right.
Yeah. So there's always someone out there that may know who the Batman is.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. When I found that strange that when obviously we had the interrogation scene in the film, and he's come to see him, and straight away he mentions Bruce Wayne. Immediately you can see it drain out of his face. Shit, he knows who I am. And he's hiding in that shadow, isn't he, by the glass as he speaks.
Right.
Then as he goes on, he realises actually he doesn't mean that.
Right.
And he comes further and further out the darkness, starts challenging him. And I found that quite of a cliffhanger. because when you looked at some of the trailers, they had that in there with the Riddler saying Bruce Wayne. So I was starting to think, does he actually work out who he is during the course of the film? Does he start blackmailing him? Does he start doing this? Does he start doing that? And actually, I thought they disguised that very well, to a degree. In my opinion, you might think differently.
I feel like, okay, they may have disguised it really well in that moment, but in the long run of the story, it's a plot that's pointless, because it's like it doesn't match up with what you were trying to do with the movie, you know. Another valid point that you made about how in Nolan films everyone knows who Batman is. I've always had this problem with them romanticizing and sexualizing Batman, because Batman has always been a character who pushed love and relationships away. For the first couple of years of his career, he has no relationship. He pushes everyone away. You know, when he first meets Selena Kyle, she's the one who comes on to him, and he kind of like, you know, plays hard to
pushes
get.
her away.
Right. So it's like this movie felt too romantic for me as well, with Selena Kyle getting under his suit, basically, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, there was so many elements in this movie that to many people may have been done well, but I feel like people are not looking at the overall picture and depiction of Batman that Matt Reeves did, and it's too flawed. There's too many flaws in it, because a lot of it, when you look at it, it's like it doesn't really make sense. It's like it's a really cool movie, and that's all it is, because there's no real foundation in it, and you can see it and everything, you know. I felt like, I mean,
I thought that obviously we're used to the Bruce Wayne, aren't we? Who's the billionaire, the playboy, you know.
Yeah.
Having a different girlfriend every single week, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Building up his persona to hide the fact that he's Batman, giving Gotham this character for them to love, because he's the son of the city. You know, he's got this wealthy business. He's very wealthy himself. You know, he's one of the elitists of Gotham. Whereas, obviously, unbeknown to a lot of people, he dresses up as a bat at night and goes out and beats the crap out of people in the city. I just think, obviously, with this different depiction, we've got a young man, an emo sort of young man, who's basically Batman. You don't really see Bruce Wayne, do you? He is Bruce Wayne, but he's always out at night wanting to be doing something on the streets.
Yeah, he was Batman throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And that's different. That's a lot different to the Batman we've seen, because in the other films we tend to see Bruce Wayne more than Batman.
That's true. That's very true, and that's where this movie has gotten a lot of praise, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like even though the movie has a lot, like I'm saying, like I'm heartbroken that I have to critique it, because even though I love the movie and the way that it was filmed and all these little details that are so great, I feel like it was shallow, right? Because they didn't really think about the things that actually mattered when it comes to fans about Batman. And then I'm kind of also shocked that so many people love the movie. Like, IGN gave it a 10, right? And it's like, it makes me wonder, because as a Batman fan, it's like, are these people really Batman fans? Because it seems to me like people don't really understand who Batman really is, because look what happened with Superman, right? the Christopher Reeves movies are said to be the best Superman movies ever made, right? And then they screwed up with Superman Returns, right? That's one mistake. But Zack Snyder was smart enough to not only, but to also to give us a Superman movie that was just as good as the Christopher Reeve movies, right? And he gave us a Superman that had all the characteristics we were looking for and the story that goes with it, right? And at the same time, he gave us a Batman in equal measure, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like people aren't really paying attention to that because look how many versions of Batman we've already gotten.
Yeah.
Right? And then look what's already been done with him, right? Like, do we really like Batman is always this dark character and he's always portrayed, you know, with his human flaws, right? And I feel like Matt Reeves didn't realize that Batman is human, but in the DC universe, he's not human like us.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he forgot that because I felt like this Batman there should have been more action scenes showing that this Batman is capable.
Yeah. Well, I like continuity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, one thing that I love about the Batman comics is you don't see. I mean, obviously, there's a new depiction time and time again when you get a new writer, new artist, that sort of thing. So they depict Batman in a different way. But what you see is a continuation of the villains. They end up in Arkham. They somehow break out of Arkham. There's always this new story to continue the story of Batman. One of the frustrations that I have had over the years is when they kill villains. And so at the end of this film, I was pleased that the Riddler was banged up in Arkham. Yeah. We've got this continuation now where the door has been left open to a brand new story. Yeah. So this Joker character that's in Arkham has obviously befriended the Riddler. Now, the Riddler is always looking for a friend because obviously he comes from a loner background, doesn't he? This orphan, yeah?
Right.
So he's always looking for a friend. Well, now he's got this friend in prison. And I suspect that going forward, you will sort of see the Riddler quite a bit in the second film.
Right.
You will see a breakout from Arkham. The point I'm making is that you should always see a continuation of these characters. Now, okay, fair enough. We've heard of the Maroni drug bust. Okay, so we're presuming that Maroni's in a prison, probably Blackgate prison. Okay, and also his henchman. We've also now got Carmine Falcone. He's been shot dead. Okay, so obviously we've now got the big boss of Gotham out the way, which could lead to the Penguin taking over all the businesses and that in the second film. Okay, so there is the continuation of the story. Now, what I found amazing, I thought it was absolutely brilliant with the Snyder films, was obviously you've got Man of Steel. Okay, literally, Batman versus Superman is taking place at the same time as Man of Steel. As Man of Steel is ending, Batman versus Superman is starting. Right. The first shots you see in Batman versus Superman is from Batman's perspective of what's going on with Superman. Now we've all seen the Superman film. We've seen this Superman defending Metropolis, right? He's defending his new home against obviously General Zod. But from Batman's perspective, Bruce Wayne looking on this character, what is he doing? Why is he destroying this city? So of course it's riling up Batman. What is he doing here? And it creates a great story. And I thought that Batman vs Superman was a brilliant movie, even though it had mixed reviews.
Right.
But to actually see in that beginning from Bruce Wayne, seeing the things that are happening in Man of Steel happening in this film from a different perspective, I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
Because you don't really see that in films, do you? When they continue the story.
Yeah.
It just gives that different depiction of someone seeing a different perspective and creating a perception in their mind of this particular character.
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought of it, but
no, I agree. I completely agree with you. I thought the same thing. And speaking of continuation, you know, I do see a lot of growth for Robert Pattinson's Batman. And I'm hoping that in the second movie, they make the corrections of showing off his strengths, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, continuing the roster of villains, you know, because the movie, like you said, I love the fact that now you have the Riddler, you have Joker, you have Penguin, they're all still alive. And they're gonna continue on probably to a bigger plot, maybe a movie where Batman is right in the middle of it, a long ass night where he has to fight every single one of them. Maybe an introduction to Mr. Freeze, right?
Well, he's spoken about that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Outreach.
Yeah, you know.
But obviously they have to try and look into how to fit it into this world,
right?
Because obviously the story of Mr. Freeze, obviously he needs the suit to keep himself alive. So how do they convert that into this world that Reeves has created?
Right. I mean, it could be possible that they can do it where, because they flooded Gotham, maybe the flood causes a malfunction at the same time as Dr. Freeze was trying to save his wife, and then he becomes, you know, the Iceman. You know?
We'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. I mean, I thought it was a good film, a really good film. I was entertained.
Yeah.
I was entertained.
Yeah, I was too.
But obviously, with your Batman fan brain switched on, anyone can sit in that cinema and say, "Do you know what? That is the most fantastic Batman I've ever seen," and I'll agree with them from their perspective. But obviously, from our perspective, where we love the character, we want the characters to be portrayed to the best ability. We want the plot of the story to fit in with the comic books and the ones that we've read, to continue the story, not to nullify them, but to actually expose them and show them off as they should be. You know, you always sit there wondering how it's going to be portrayed, worried, are they going to do this, are they going to do that? And that just shows the sign of a true fan. And, you know, the Batman world will not be what it is without fans.
Yeah. I agree. Well, Andy, we've had quite a conversation. But it was nice, you know, chatting with you about this.
That was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Me too. I hope to in the future have more conversations with you about comic books and other things as well.
Yep.
You know, I'm really hoping moving forward that we see more DC movies that are really good, because I'm really anticipating movies from DC. You know, I love Marvel, but I love DC just as much, and it's like I feel like there's this emptiness that needs to be filled with DC movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that we didn't discuss, obviously, was the relationship between Batman and Gordon. I thought that was excellent.
Oh yes.
But But my best Batman and Jim Gordon partnership would obviously be it'd probably be this one. To be fair, when you think back, I mean, obviously the one in The Dark Knight and the Nolan films was an excellent one. But I thought obviously with Alfred as well, I didn't see much of the Bond in this film. But I thought, obviously, in Batman versus Superman, that was the best one.
Yeah.
Between Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck. And again, it goes back to Affleck. And this is why I think he needs his own film in the DCEU.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like we're going to get it. I feel like Zack Snyder, when the Discovery merger goes through, and now Discovery and Warner Brothers are together, I feel like they're gonna make Zack Snyder make the Batman movie that Ben Affleck was trying to make. You know, I feel like
we'll watch this space.
Huh?
We'll watch this space.
Yeah.
Wait for the announcement.
Yeah. But all right, Andy, I'm gonna end the show here.
No problem.
I don't know if you want me to like. I'll put a link to your YouTube channel, so that way people can listen to your podcast.
My stuff.
Yeah. So they can see the kind of mind that you have, because I would like to have you back on the show for a conversation about reincarnation and occult science, you know, because I know that
near-death experience as well.
Huh?
Near-death experience as well.
Yeah, that as well. That would be a great conversation that we'll probably have soon. But peace out, guys. Thank you for watching me and my friend Andy. I'm gonna put the link, like I said. Check out his stuff. You know, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Let us know what you thought of not only my friend Andy here, but also the conversation that we had about the Batman and many other things. See you on the next episode. Peace out. Hold on a second.